All righty. Once again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening for folks overseas. My name is Tyler Price. I am a part of the team here at DWS supporting our customers and those interested in our services and products. Super excited to be here with everyone today, talking about one of our really, outstanding customers, Heathrow Airport, and discussing a little bit how they leveraged automated testing to really support them as they went through the largest digital transformation in their 75-year history. So as you can see, Caroline Knight is the head of technology for corporate over at Heathrow. She was able to join us. Unfortunately, she is not going to be here live this afternoon, but she was able to meet with myself in advance to discuss, the project, where automated testing fit in, and really just what it looked like for them going from EBS on-premise to Oracle ERP and HCM cloud applications. So that's what we'll be discussing today. We have a full agenda. Up front, I'll share a little bit more about DWS. I know the folks on the call today are probably familiar with us, but I'll tell you a little bit what we've been up to over the last 12, 18 months. From there, what we'll do is just review a little bit of the functional testing opportunity and really lay the framework for what the discussion is with Caroline, and just really put in emphasis on exactly some of the concerns, some of the troubles that many folks experience along the way. From there, we'll really get into the Heathrow story. We'll give you a leadership perspective with Caroline Knight, which is it's super valuable. And then we'll also discuss, living in a new normal on the cloud. For so many folks in the Oracle community and in the enterprise space, they're currently looking at what exactly is the next 3, 5, 10 years going to bring their organizations. So we'll discuss that a bit as well. From there, we'll talk a little bit about the software, the tool that Heathrow is leveraged to support this automation. And then we will also leave time at the end for any questions and discussions that folks want to take part in. So there is the Q&A tab up top left of your window. So feel free to list any questions that you have, during the presentation. We'll spend time at the end, or you can even use the chat box as well. At the end, I'll take a look at both of those to see if there's anything that we can cover. So let's dive into it. So, for those who aren't super familiar with us, DWS has been around a long time. We've been trading for almost 26 years at this point. We had our 25th anniversary last year, which we're super excited about, and very proud of as well. For many of those years, we've been working very closely within the Oracle community. So we've been a gold partner of Oracle for a very long time. What do we do? So we provide development and technical services for JD Edwards. That's really where DWS came from, is the JD Edwards space. And in addition to those development and technical services that we provide, we also provide testing products for both JD Edwards and Oracle Fusion Cloud Apps. So that's what we'll be discussing. One of our testing products today is what Heathrow has leveraged during their implementation and post go live with their Oracle cloud applications. So, we talk about it all the time. We have customers all around the world. Heathrow in the UK, folks in other spots of Europe, many folks in the US. So very much of a global customer view. And then we're also staffed all around the world. DWS, we're headquartered in um, in the UK. You can hear my voice. I do not have a British accent. I'm actually here in the US, right in New Hampshire, in the Northeast, starting to get a little bit chilly this time of year for us. But again, it's really that global perspective that we have. Um, so, of more recent times, our parent company, Logigear, uh, has been able to add, many exciting capabilities to our toolbox. Logigear, when we talk about development and testing products and services for Oracle, Logigear really specializes in that enterprise-wide development and testing services for applications outside of Oracle. So, we're always keen to understand and take part in those conversations where it's incorporating applications and tools outside of the Oracle suite. So that's a little bit about us. But really, want to lay the framework for what we view and what we hear all the time as the functional testing opportunity. And I'll turn my camera on as well, so you can see me too. So you can see I'm at my Microsoft Teams beach house here in Malibu. Um, But so when we get into it, and I think the testing conversation is a little bit different for Oracle Cloud customers compared to JD Edwards customers or those that aren't running on cloud apps really. So when we think about what's different, it really always starts with the fact that there's a mandatory quarterly update. So for Oracle Cloud customers that are, especially, in Heathrow's case, moving from Oracle EBS to the cloud, it is a new normal. So folks go from testing, um, twice a year, maybe annually, to really they're doing it at least mandatory. They're doing it at least once a quarter, really turning into, more like once a month, even every 2 weeks, folks are running, full testing to ensure their tools are running as they should. Their enterprise, applications are running as expected. So, every time that there's going to be a quarterly update, it really turns into a project. And again, it goes back to whether you're Oracle Cloud Apps, JD Edwards, or other tools, those projects really take a lot of time and effort, and testing is one of the biggest reasons for that, especially those that aren't leveraging automation. Many folks might be using a managed services provider that handles this for them, a systems integrator that might handle this for them, or they're doing it internally. And some would probably raise their hands saying, well, we don't really do it at all. And that's what we don't want to hear, because like anything, it's whether it's your health, whether it's something, an appliance in your house, you need to test items to ensure they're going to work as expected. And when we're talking about enterprise level ERP and HCM, mistakes really can't happen, or it's going to be a significant impact on your business. So we talked about it, quarterly updates. There's no choice. You're going to be having an update no matter what. There is some control when those land. As a business, as a company, as a customer of Oracle, you do have a say, where those updates might land within within that quarter. So, while it's going to happen no matter what, you do have a bit of a say in exactly the timing of it. So everybody that probably saw testing in the title probably appreciates that it can be a challenge, and many organizations would raise their hands and say they're not doing it well today. And that's really where we want to help folks navigate those issues and really support them if we can, if it's at all possible. So, what are the biggest issues that we hear? Um, it's time consuming. If you're not leveraging the right tools or if you don't have the right resources, it can be incredibly difficult. Um, Many organizations are relying on, business analysts, folks that are not technical to be able to handle this testing. Many of them are just doing it manually, going through their normal workload to ensure things. That's where you end up spending, way too much time. With all of that, it can be very expensive, allocating the resources, spending the additional time. This adds up into being a significant cost for your business. And, most importantly, it's user adoption. When we invest in the tools to support our business, we invest knowing that we need the people to use them, or else it's really going to be pointless if the folks aren't taking advantage. So that's the biggest thing. It does slow user adoption within an organization, when testing is taking such a toll. So, I always like to point to, research and facts and, what are people saying within the industry. And, one area that we go is to the Capgemini World Quality Report that they produce each year. And the past year's, edition actually said that less of the respondents, of organizations involved in the polling believe that less than half believe they actually have the right testing solution, strategy, and process in place. So, I say that because if you don't think you're doing it that well today, you're not by yourself. This is as folks transition into, continuous innovation, they're getting more comfortable with the idea that testing is just much more of a frequent exercise than it was, 5, 10, 15 years ago. So, what are those bottlenecks specifically, within that are really delaying teams from getting through it as efficiently as they would want to? So the first thing is it's understanding what to test, being able to build off of the work that you've already done, build off of all of the work that you did in the last project, understanding what may have changed. So that's a big hindrance for a lot of folks. Then it's actually planning and managing. So many people, so many organizations don't have a process in place to support that, the planning and that standardization of the full process. Then you get to actually creating the test scripts, and then editing those. Well, it's a JD Edwards event. We were at In Focus a couple of weeks ago, and when I spoke with customers about, what is holding you back, what are some of the troubles that you guys have when you're running your projects that require testing, it's the editing. It's going in there and making those edits to all your test scripts to ensure things are running smoothly. That can take a lot of time. Um, and so we move down a little bit. It's the availability of the right resources, and many times those are test engineers and programmers, technical folks that can help you, get in there and make those code adjustments and getting close to the issue themselves. And then it's finally that handover from the project team to the users. It's that end user acceptance testing. That can take a lot of time, and it's a lot of stress for organizations too, as they get ready to go live into production. We always talk about documentation. If speaking with folks on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis, documentation is one of the areas where companies struggle, but also the people doing it really don't enjoy it. I don't think anybody raises their hands super excited to, be the one testing during this. But it's also the documentation can be a real stress on them. And then it's simply the time. It's when you're going through a project where you're going to be doing your functional and regression testing, it's the time and effort to test and retest. So all of those are significant factors that has created, the stress on teams when they consider testing and how they're going to go about it. So, that's the last slide for this portion of the webinar. So we're going to jump into the Caroline Knight stuff, which I know everyone's excited to hear. So we will jump into that right now. So, just a quick introduction to, the conversation. So we're speaking with Heathrow Airport and Project Magenta. Project Magenta is what was launched in 2019, replacing Heathrow's 15-year on-premise e-business suite with Oracle ERP and HCM Cloud. So this project specifically was the largest digital transformation in Heathrow's 75-year history. So if anybody was at Cloud Worlds the last couple of years, you probably heard of Heathrow quite a bit because even Oracle has called it one of the most successful digital transformations that they've had a customer go from on-premise to the cloud. So we're not the only super proud folks that work with Heathrow Airport. Anybody that's had any part of their their transformation is really singing their praises. So that's a big compliment to Caroline and her team at Heathrow. So just to give proper credit, Heathrow worked super closely with Oracle Consulting Services and Capgemini during their implementation. So very, very proud of the success that they've had, jumping into it. So from there, we will go into the sessions that I had with Caroline. And I will preface this: I'm not Barbara Walters. I'm not Diane Sawyer. So Caroline did a really great job of telling us the story of what they've gone through. So I hope you all enjoy it, and please do, if you have any questions, we'll save time at the end and make sure we touch on all of those.
Hello, so I'm Caroline Knight. I'm the head of technology for corporate at Heathrow Airport. So what that actually means is that me and my team look after all of the technology that we use in the back office. So that's everything from payroll, HR systems, all the financial systems, anything in the procurement space, and a few other things along the way. So the main tools that we're running are our ERP. And yeah, we do everything from run them, design them, build them, implement them, work with all the third-party providers who provide some of that kit to us. So yeah, we look after everything in the back office.
So that's Caroline's, that is her introduction to, her responsibilities as well as her teams. So we'll take this to the next one and talk a little bit about her history on Oracle EBS, as well as, their approach to testing at that point.
So prior to our current situation, we were running eBusiness Suite R12, and we were also running a whole host of other smaller applications to complement that suite of applications. We also had a muddle of Excel spreadsheets. We had a very unclear set of business processes. We implemented eBiz R12 nearly 15 years ago now, and we were a very different business at the time. So it was implemented and it was heavily customized to suit our business as it was 15 years ago. So what that meant was every time we wanted to change it, it was really, really difficult and very expensive. We hosted that solution with Oracle On Demand. So it was a solution that wasn't really very easy for us to change. So as a result, we didn't run projects that often, and we got into a state where we would probably create a process that went around the system rather than get the system to change for us. So we really weren't in a good spot. We did from time to time, probably about on a 4 or 5 year period, we would have to do a big upgrade of the solution to keep it in support. And so those upgrades were really seen as projects that were kind of forced on us, not something that we really wanted to do. Took a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of cost. We'd be talking multi-million-pound projects to upgrade. And in terms of how we ran those projects and how we tested those projects, it was really quite haphazard. We didn't have a standard approach. We would have to create it every time we ran one of those big projects. And it just really wasn't the sort of thing that we enjoyed doing, wanted to do, or really got that much value out of. So we really were in a muddle, would be a good way of describing it.
In a muddle, and I think that is a very common concern that when we speak with folks that aren't on Oracle Cloud Apps, because it's a different need. You don't have as much say. But it's the reluctance to take on new projects, knowing about the strain that everything is going to have on your team. So it's less getting your systems to work for you as they should, and it's more just finding workarounds, which is not a lasting solution to the problem. So I thought what she said there was very poignant.
So prior to our current So as an organisation, we first started thinking about moving to the cloud about 5 years ago now, and the programme of works to get us to the cloud was a long time in the making. It takes a long time to build a business case and to build support for the effort that it will take to make that transition to the cloud. Our footprint was really large, covering HR, finance, procurement, project accounting. So because that footprint was so large, it was going to be a very big project. It was going to cost us a lot of money, but our business really needed it. We had this Excel industry. We had a set of systems which weren't really working for us. We had data that we couldn't rely on, that was difficult to get our hands on. When we did get we were questioning, was the data correct, rather than what is the data telling us? So we really knew we needed to move to the cloud. Our business was also at the time looking to expand, and we wanted the back office and the processes in the back office to be these seamless, quiet, frictionless processes that just happened, so that the rest of the business could just get on with running the business and doing what we need to do to take the business into the future. So we finally put together a business case in 2019, and it's at that point that we selected to move to the Oracle Fusion SaaS, and we got the project underway. Then obviously the pandemic happened, so then we sort of re-questioned our business case and why we were doing it. But the business case, it was strong. It's still stacked up. We knew this was something that we absolutely had to do. So that really is how we got to the point of making the decision that we had to proceed, and we had to run the program. Now that we've come out of the other side of that, and that we've successfully implemented, we really are in a completely different world to the one that we were in before. It really is a transformational change. And although I represent the technology function, this really isn't it wasn't a technology program of works. It's a business change piece of work. It's a real transformation for our business teams. The way we work now, the way we do things is so different to where we were previously. We now work to these quarterly release cycles that Oracle have. So every quarter, a new release comes. It comes on a certain day of the month, whether we like it or not, it's coming. So we get ourselves, I have a DevOps team who are organised in a way that we assess the release notes, we understand what's coming, and then we think about what do we need to test, what are the impacts of that release, how do we test it, and how do we actually get ourselves in a comfortable place so that when Oracle are going to put that release out to us, whether we like it or not, we know what's coming and we know what to expect.
Yeah, and I think she, talking about the planning and that has such a big piece of for these quarterly updates is of getting ahead of it. Okay, what are they bringing in? What's changing? What have we done? What do we need to change? So it's just it's that planning stage that has such a significance in how you're going about running these projects and ultimately doing your testing during these projects.
So as an organisation, so we've now moved from a situation where we had a system that we didn't really change very much at all, if ever, and now we're constantly changing. So in addition to the quarterly releases from Oracle, where they're either fixing things or bringing new functionality to us, we also run a fortnightly release cycle where every 2 weeks we're looking at what changes do we want to make ourselves. So if we want to change our business process or we want to add steps to it, simplify things, do things slightly differently, we can. So the resources in our business, not necessarily in our technical teams, but our business resource, they have the ability to go in and make change on a fortnightly basis. So we have a backlog of work that we'd like to get through. We run daily sprints, we prioritise the work, and we release every fortnight. So that has been hugely transformational. Every change we want to make now goes into the system. We're not in that situation where we revert back to Excel and we move into that Excel industry. So everything now is done through the system, and it's all managed and tested in a very structured and a very clear way.
Yep, really important. And we always talk about single source of truth, many times when we talk about our ERPs, our CRMs, it really can be seen as very similar when we talk about, a testing application, something that your team is relying on for each project. You revert back to what has been done, what's in the library, what needs to be changed. So having that single source of truth is, truly, truly important.
So we've now
And now we'll hear a little bit about her talking about living with, a new normal with Oracle Cloud Apps.
So as we were working our way through the program to move to the cloud, we knew that these quarterly release cycles were going to come at us, and we knew that we'd have the ability to change the solution in between times, but we knew we needed to do that in a really controlled and structured way. So that's when our thoughts turned to testing automation. We'd have needed an army of people to manually test every quarter and then test any other change that we're making in between the quarterly releases. So we knew we had to find an automated way of going about that. And that's when we first came across DWS. And we looked at your tools and we started to think about how could we make those tools work for us in that quarterly cycle. At first, we thought it was all a bit too good to be true because it all sounded really simple, very easy to set up and really easy to use. And that has turned out to be the case. So we started small and we looked at having maybe 50 or 60 test cases that we would automate. So the first quarterly release we had a small set of tests. And as we've got used to the products and the processes and the ways of working, we've managed to expand that. So we now run somewhere in the region of 350 tests every single time we have a quarterly release. They're all implemented using the tool. They're all automated. They're the same tests that are repeatable that we run every single quarterly release. So that gives us the confidence that when the release comes in, the big features that we use in the system, the things that will really slow our business down if they stop working, we're testing those. So it takes us just a couple of days now to run a much increased set of tests every single quarterly release, and it just gives us that confidence and opens our eyes to what's coming and what's going to happen. And that way we can have conversations back with Oracle if we spot things that we're not quite sure about and not happy about. We spot that very quickly in the cycle so that all those issues can get resolved and dealt with ahead of the cutover window, which just doesn't change. So that the DWS test suite really works for us and really helps us just get that confidence and have that standard repeatable process, which is exactly what we wanted to do every quarter. So we thoroughly recommend that everybody moving to the Oracle Cloud goes and takes a look at the product and sees how they can make it work for themselves.
We didn't pay her anything extra to say that stuff at the end, by the way. But a couple of important highlights of what she was just speaking about. So Heathrow, began leveraging the Swift test tool during their implementation. And I think that's really important to discuss because, as we know, many times implementations, it's a staggered phased approach. You're starting to incorporate more and more modules that you want to leverage. It really can be thought, preparing for this, you're going to be testing during that implementation, but preparing for this post go live, that you mirror those actions by also building your test scripts. And when you're leveraging a tool, you're not just writing those out on an Excel spreadsheet. You're leveraging a living, breathing thing. So that those scripts, won't be getting misplaced. You're building those to support your team as you go. So, it's not something where, you want to have to bite off 385 scripts to create at once. Nobody wants to do that. But if you stagger that approach, if you phase it out where you're building up, as you're starting to open up those new modules, what you'll find is, by the time your second testing, you're going to be significantly farther along than where you were previously. I'm not sure if I may have missed it, but I think she also mentioned 2 weeks, which is really important to highlight. Oracle gives you 2 weeks for each release. You do not want to spend 2 weeks testing, because that doesn't give you the opportunity to go back to Oracle with any issues. So you really want that to be a week or under. And if you're doing that manually, it's very, very difficult. So, with Heathrow, I think, I'm not sure if it might be another, but they went from the first time, their first update post go live, I think it took them a total of 6 or 7 days for testing to go through and make sure they finished all their testing. By that second update, that was down to 3. So, again, very, very important to see the significance and the value of not only making it easier on your team, but giving them that extra time in that 2-week time frame to be able to handle anything that they have to. So, big thank you to Carolyn for taking part in the conversation with us. That really brings us into the next part of our presentation, our webinar today, where we want to then dig a little bit into, build on top of what she mentioned about the value of having that automated testing strategy. And then we can even discuss Dimension Swift Test, which is the tool being discussed at this point. So, when we think about the value of a testing strategy, and again, she was talking a lot about this stuff. It's all about repeatability. Um, you know, we're talking about Oracle Cloud Apps, but this can be said just as easy for those JD Edwards customers that are now beginning to take advantage of the continuous innovation, where they're running more projects, where they're working harder to stay code current on a more annual basis. That repeatability where your team is able to go back and only build off of what they've already done is tremendously valuable. So it's all about introducing a consistent, reliable test methodology. From there, what does that help you do? Well, it helps you do a number of things, but the first thing is you're reducing the risk. Anytime you're able to improve the quality, you're getting away from human error, which we all know, is a thing. But you're improving the quality of each round of testing. You're ensuring that accuracy is there. And then, in my mind, maybe the biggest value is you're easing the burden on your team. You're taking that stress off them. Again, we talked about no one's going to raise their hand to be in charge of doing all the testing. It's not a fun job. But you're easing that burden, and ultimately you're releasing resources to be able to focus on higher priority items, higher valuable items. Instead of testing, they're thinking about creating and what more can we do. Really, that's we want to free people from needing to feel like they are dragged down by the testing problem. And, for each project, we always talk about it. It's about creating those smaller, faster, smarter projects. Each update, you should be doing a little bit less. It shouldn't incorporate as much as the one that preceded it. You should be getting through it even faster, and ultimately, you're doing it smarter. Okay, it's the famous work smarter, not harder, and that's what we're really trying to get to is helping you do a better job in less time and with much more efficiency. And we talk about is that user adoption. It's delivering that business value sooner than you would have before. So we'll talk about Dimension Swift Test, which is the product that Caroline was talking about. That's our scripting and test automation tool. So what we're looking at now is really the Dimension Swift Test lifecycle, and everything that you would need to do from a testing perspective during a project, you're going to be able to do inside Dimension Swift Test. So when it's talking about planning, you're going to be leveraging the resources that Oracle provides you with their update guides that they send in advance with all of the past work that you've done, where you can fully understand, what's changed, what's going to be new, what do we want to incorporate, what do we want to turn on, what do we not want to turn on. It's getting that full view in advance. From there, you're going to be, building any new test scripts that you need to build, and you need to modify any test scripts that you need to modify. Both are really key areas within the tool. So I'll talk about that here in a couple of minutes, but it's really, again, it's getting in there to modify, for the test scripts that, maybe a single line needs to be changed. You're not going in there having to rip it and tear it down. You're able to go in there and make a really, simple, efficient modification to the existing test script. You're going to be running and executing your tests, and then it's basically rinse and repeat. You're going to be doing that until you're satisfied. In addition to those core features, that core functionality within Swift Test, some other items that we were really strong with is just being able to catalog catalog all of your test scripts. Swift test automatically documents. So something, if you're an organization that is, frequent audits and things like that, highly regulated industries where you need to make sure that you have, your documentation down. So Swift test, one cool item that it does is, each line, each test script that you have, it's going to produce an automatic PDF or Word document. Within that Word document, you're going to have actually screenshots of each action. To give you an idea of what it would look like, it's basically people use it as training materials. So it has a picture of each step that you need to do during a test script. So again, for those regulated industries where you need to make sure you can show your proof of testing, the proof of your projects, it's quite valuable. And then of course we have a scheduler, so you don't have to be there when you're running these tests. And then it's referencing this for each project where you need to test, following that one. So we don't have a live demo today, which I do, anybody that's interested, please reach out. We're always happy to do live demos, for anybody that wants to check out the software. But I took a few screenshots just to give you an idea of what it looks like, an idea of, what we're talking about. So what we're looking at here is, Swift test is split into, two different parts. We have the Dimension Hub, and then we have the Swift test client. The Dimension Hub, which sits on Microsoft Azure Cloud, very secure. Dimension Hub is where you will see all of your past tests. That's where you store all of your projects, scenarios and tests. So you can see up here where if you're a manager, if you're someone that needs to understand, okay, what has been happening over a certain period of time, what tests have we been running, what's been successful, what hasn't been, you can see this this dashboard right here, which reflects that. Again, you can manipulate any of the time and views that you're trying to look at, but it gives you a great sense of what's been happening. From there, you can see all of the project names. And again, I mentioned it a few seconds ago, but Swift test it's meant to be user friendly. It's meant to be simple, not to undermine it. It's meant to be really easy to use for you. So everything is broken into a project, a scenario, or a test. And that allows a lot of flexibility within the tool to be able to reuse items that you've used before. So, you'll hear me talk about application aware. So what we're looking at now is the Dimension Swift Test client. So on the right, this is a test script running. You can see all of the green check marks. This is actually the Swift Test client right here. But what happens when it runs a test, and even when you're building a test script, is you're actually working side by side with the environment that you're familiar with, whether that's ERP, HCM Cloud, or whether that's JD Edwards. So what Swift test is doing is reading the user interface, the browser. So for anybody that is non-technical, this is a no-code platform. So what you're able to do is when you're either building a test script or you're running a test, you're seeing it happen in your cloud environment or your JD Edwards environment. So again, it's just being able to imagine that, and it takes a lot of the stress and difficulty away for those that aren't testing professionals. What we've come to learn and what we talk about is, if you're familiar with how your JD Edwards is implemented, if you're working within JD Edwards or cloud, it's very easy to understand and get comfortable leveraging Swift test. And this, again, we talk about action-based test scripting, which is really important. Our team has gone about building this product a little bit differently. Many of you that have checked out testing solutions in the past, it's record and playback. You know, we've done something a bit different, and it makes a big impact on the efficiency that we have. So, record and playback, creating a script, it can be really useful, but it also creates very fragile tests. So, what we do is action-based. So you heard me mention before, when you need to go modify a test script, instead of having to tear that up and start over again, you're able to go in there and change the individual lines of what you need to be changed within that test script. So it could be a 25-step test script, and line 14 is the one that needs to be modified. You're able to go and change that one, and then keep moving about your day, knowing that that will work as intended. So again, we've taken a bit of a different approach, but in our experience, it has been very valuable from again, modification standpoint. So where are we a bit different than some of the competition? So application aware, this tool has been made to be used for JD Edwards and Oracle Cloud Apps. So it's very efficient, very user friendly, working within those tools. We are trying to get away from the engineer and the programmer, the testing specialist. This has really been built to be used for the business user, or the super user, or the business analyst, someone that is familiar with how you're currently using your application. So within those applications, you can replicate your end-to-end business processes. I talked about our documentation before. Please, if anybody's interested in learning more about that, please reach out. Happy to share more, or even schedule a demo. Again, no developer studio required, and a dynamic data store. So that's probably a bit easier to show during a demonstration, but dynamic data store basically allows you to scale the amount of testing that you're doing, leveraging dynamic data. So if you're running one test script 50 times because you need 50 different purchase order numbers in there, leveraging dynamic data store will allow you to run that that single test script and be able to show 50 different purchase orders. So again, very valuable. And then from a security perspective, this is always in our upfront with us, and it's something that we're very focused on, is making sure we are staying at the top of the security requirements. It's something we're looking at every month, every year. So, and then what would you expect to save leveraging a tool? So to be honest with you, these numbers might be a little bit low, but just to give you a baseline, our customers are saving at least 60% of time on the amount of time it takes them to execute their tests. Simply going from 2 weeks to 1 week, something like that. And then even more significant, it's the maintaining the test scripts, and folks are saving a ton of time, being able to maintain and create their test scripts. So that's closer to 70%. So if you're not currently using a tool, there's some very, very obvious benefits to incorporating a tool to support your team, support your process. So a few people that are leveraging Swift Test, just a few of our customers. You can see a few system integrators on here as well. But yeah, super proud of our customers, and it's something that we're focused on continuing to improve the tool to ensure that not only will our customers continue to get the value, but we're leaving that open for anybody that is looking to improve the way they go about it today.